Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the After the Frame podcast. My name is Malik, and I'm joined as always by.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And today we are going to be veering from movies in this episode, and we're going to be reviewing The Boys season 5 and Daredevil Born Again season 2. We're going to start off with Daredevil. What are your thoughts on Daredevil Born Again, like this reboot that they're doing in the MCU, as well as your thoughts on the original Netflix series?
I was a big fan of the original Netflix show. Season one was really, really good. Season two was a bit of a step down, but then season three brought it right back up to where it was. It was different for Marvel at the time because it was a very, dark and gritty. It actually showed, blood in a Marvel property. Since that was around the time, the MCU was building its groundwork, but it was adjacent to. It was in the MCU, but it wasn't really like adapted. And then after the Netflix rights ended, I'm glad Disney decided to actually take it and continue to run with it, because not only Daredevil, but the overall Netflix universe as a whole has had some good, some bad, but overall, it's a pretty cohesive product. And I'm glad they applied it with Born Again. I remember when season one came out, I was like, it started super hot and then kind of cooled off. And then towards the end, it ramped up a little bit. But I remember there was a change in writers and showrunners and like what they wanted to do. And they couldn't like afford to scrap, the whole thing. So they plugged holes where they could with season one. I thought season one ended on a very strong note, and it left me very optimistic for season two. And season two, I thoroughly enjoyed.
Well, for me and Daredevil, excuse me. For me and Daredevil, I think that it's a little bit odd that after basically what is it now, 5 seasons as a whole,
Hmm.
it's just been him doing the whole Kingpin thing every season. So I'm kind of over that now, and I felt that in this new season. Um, with that being said, I do enjoy Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin. Like he's my favorite part of the show, I think. Um, I don't think that he had as much to do this season, despite the fact that he was mayor and had his hands in a bunch of different things going on in the city. But I felt like he had more to do in Born Again season 1. So I was a little disappointed in that because, spoiler alert, Vanessa is killed and he spends a good chunk of the season kind of being depressed Kingpin. So, other than when he kind of lets loose at the end in the finale, I was kind of underwhelmed with that, and I didn't think that the show was really offering much more than what I'd seen. But we can get into it. We're not going to do a specific breakdown of every episode. We're kind of just going to give our general thoughts on the season as a whole. So yeah, what worked for you for this new season?
I have a lot of notes because thankfully one of the positives about TV is they can kind of focus on a lot of things as it goes along. And the one thing that I grew to notice transitioning from the end of season one going into season two is that season two feels a lot more confident than season one turned out to be. And I think that's the biggest win of the second season because now they seem to know what kind of show they wanted it to be because it leans harder into the gritty street level crime drama side of Daredevil instead of feeling caught between the old Netflix expectations and modern MCU obligations. I thought this season felt a lot sharper, darker, and more focused compared to season one. Um, and the characters you see in Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk, they, as you would expect, still carry the whole thing. I mean, that's the core rivalry really remains the true engine of the show. And Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, they really work because they bring completely different energies. I mean, Matt shows off, guilt, restraint, this bruised morality, whereas Fisk is more rage, power, and control, like barely hiding under the surface. Um, when the season really centers on the two of them, it feels like, classic Daredevil. Like not even just, the old Netflix show, just, comics and adaptations as a whole. I thought the action was a major step up because the fight scenes really felt more physical and character driven. And Daredevil at his core really works best when the action feels, painful, desperate, grounded. And season two, I thought did a really good job of understanding that. And the violence is not just there to look cool. Like it kind of tells you where Matt is emotionally over the course of the show. And I thought they did a really good job with the moral conflict and showcasing how it actually matters because the season does a really strong job returning to one of the best Daredevil questions that you've seen throughout all of history. And it's how do you fight evil without becoming it? Because between Matt's code, Karen's anger that you see throughout the course of the show, Fisk's power, and the state of New York, like they all kind of feed into that larger debate, and that gives the season more weight than just, superhero punches criminals. Um, I liked that the supporting cast got more to do this go around because I think the show works better when it doesn't feel like everyone's just waiting around for Matt or Fisk. I mean, you've got characters like Karen, Cherry, Kirsten, and you've got returning street level Marvel pieces and that they help make the world feel bigger without losing the local New York flavor that you get. Um, and lastly, like I think it did a really good job embracing the Daredevil identity. Like I think the best thing about the show is that it feels like Daredevil again because you've got legal drama as Matt's tenure as a lawyer, but you've got a little bit of crime thriller. You've got some brutal fights. You have the Catholic guilt and the weight of that Matt feels. There's a lot of political rot and really just impossible choices at the end of the day. But I think that is the lane in which Daredevil belongs in, and I'm glad that they realized that in season two because it felt like the showrunners and the cast feel much more comfortable living there rather than where they had been previously.
Okay. Um, my notes or my thoughts, I should say, are much shorter. The show as a whole, I think for me, as I said, like I think the Netflix portion works better for me. And it's just because you get to kind of see Matt becoming Daredevil, so it's a lot more interesting in that respect, and his relationship with Foggy and with Karen and his run-ins with Frank, and all the side characters that you already mentioned. In this, I guess you can call MCU-ified Daredevil. I just feel like they kind of they just have the same plot over and over again. I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the third season that I understand is being taped now, and yeah, we'll see where it goes because it doesn't like they can't go down the Kingpin path again. So yeah, I that was a bit of a drawback for me. Positives wise, I think that like the acting is again like the perfect casting for Charlie Cox as Daredevil and Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. They're on their A game in this season as they are in all of the seasons I've seen. The fighting, as you said, is stepped up. I love the diner scene with Bullseye. I like that Bullseye gets a lot more of a spotlight in this season as well. And then from what I've seen in set photos, he's going to get a more comic accurate, the Bullseye mask and everything, which is pretty cool. And other than that, I wasn't really like for it releasing as like a week to week show. I would say that I wasn't like clamoring to like figure out what was going on next because I feel like most people kind of knew where it was heading. Um, the Vanessa thing was shocking. I didn't think they'd actually end up killing her off because I think a big part of Kingpin's character is his relationship with her, and in a lot of ways, his relationship with her is what like ties him almost to humanity, which is why we see him kind of go crazy in the finale. But I was glad that they went for that swing. It was very that was probably the most shocking thing that happened this season. Other than that, my negatives are few and far between. It was more like just apathy rather than negatives itself. As I said, like it just didn't keep me that engaged as other Marvel shows. Because I just have like this thing now where as the MCU has gone on for almost what 20 years now,
Mhm.
to me, it's like Moon Knight, for instance. Like in isolation, it's a decent show, but like if it's not gonna tie into like a larger thing, I kind of feel like, well, then I'm like wasting a bit of time with it. So that's kind of how I feel with Daredevil, because it seems as though they're kind of going on this path of quote unquote street level, where all the street level people happen to be in New York, which is interesting. But then because of Sony, it's not like Spider-Man can just pop up, which begs the question, you start asking questions about what's going on. I guess we'll see what happens in his movie next month. But those are the things where I'm like, that kind of like keeps me from being as interested when I know that in a couple months' time we have this big Doomsday thing. When like what the hell is Luke Cage gonna do to Doomsday? You know what I mean? Like
He's
what are
gonna
these
get
people?
smacked by Doom. That's what.
Yeah, yeah, Doctor Doom, not Doomsday. But you know what I mean. Like it's just that kind of thing. So when you're getting all of these properties out, to me, it's just like you have to keep me in. Like, how does this tie into everything? Like that's what I think the Loki show did really well, and WandaVision. But yeah, this show is good in isolation. It's fine, but it's not, to me, as like it's not the best Daredevil season that they've put out, including the Netflix. Um, and it's not anything that you haven't really like seen before. As you said, it's just a little bit cleaner than that first Born Again season, but not really anything that blows it out of the water. So that's basically all my thoughts on it. So I'll let you go and say your negatives if you have any.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much. As you kind of touched on with, the broader MCU, I do think there is some setup throughout the show that still kind of feels like franchise homework. And I mean, even when the season works, you can occasionally feel it positioning pieces for future, not just Daredevil stories, but Marvel stories as a whole. And I mean, that's not always bad, but as I've kind of said, like I think Daredevil is strongest when it feels immediate and personal, not when it feels like it is holding space for the next chapter. And as you progress through the season, like not every storyline gets equal weight. I mean, the main material from Matt and Fisk is strong, but there are some side threads throughout that felt less essential, in my opinion. And when the season drifted too far from that central conflict, I thought the momentum dipped a little bit, and I do think the finale, although good, the finale, and I kind of fell victim to this after thinking about it. I kind of wanted some more closure from it because the ending really delivered some big moments, but it also left some doors open for what they'll do in the next season, which they didn't really tell you what they're doing, which is good. But at the same time, it's like, what are we doing? And that can be exciting, but it also kinda made the season feel like one chapter in a larger machine instead of a completely satisfying standalone arc. Um, and as you touched on with the Netflix series, like, I do think the shadow of the Netflix series is still hard to escape. I would put this ahead of season 2 of the original Daredevil, but I think seasons 1 and 3 were better. But even when, Born Again has improved, it is always being compared to one of the best superhero shows ever made, in my humble opinion. But that is a brutal standard. And season 2 of Born Again, it is strong on its own terms, but, some fans will still judge every hallway fight, every Fisk scene, every moral debate against the peak Netflix years. And the connection with the MCU can still feel awkward because Daredevil works because of his groundedness and specificity behind him. And I think the more that the show has to acknowledge the larger Marvel universe, the more risk there is of breaking that street level spell, which depending on how you feel about it, it may not be for you. It may be, a nice little aside to the broader MCU. But I do think season 2 did a better job at balancing it, but the tension is still there. But I mean, we've seen, Daredevil popped up in Spider-Man No Way Home, and then Kingpin was in Echo, and uh No, he was in Hawkeye. Well, no, he was in Echo
He was
too.
in Echo as well.
Daredevil was in Echo.
Hmm.
They've popped up throughout. I mean,
Echo's
just what?
another waste of time.
Yeah, that one I'm lower on for sure. But I mean, at this point, just wait until Spider-Man: Brand New Day when Kingpin's going to show up and break open the collider, and we've got Spider-Ham in the MCU.
I would love that. I want Vincent D'Onofrio in more stuff.
I agree.
I'm sick of seeing him fight Daredevil over and over again. I mean, like that happens in comics all the time. I know that people probably are, bitching about, Batman and Joker as well. But even me as a Batman fan, if every movie that Matt Reeves makes, like 5 movies in a row, is him going against the Joker, it's like, you got to switch it up a little bit. So
Well, I mean, that's the thing. So Kingpin can work a little broadly. Like, I mean, we've seen him in Hawkeye. He was in the Spider-Man games and comics. Like, we've seen, Spider-Man fight Kingpin. But Sony doesn't seem to want to go that route. And then Marvel is like, well, hey, we've got Kingpin in the show. Let us use Spider-Man. Of course, Sony's like, nope. Um, so the other thing, like Daredevil, like he doesn't really have a large cast and crew of villains. Like if he ever does, it's really with um, the other street level heroes and Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and it's just like, like the Hand is in Brand New Day, and that's the cast and crew and ninjas. Um, it from Daredevil set aside, like Elektra came from the Hand. But as far as villains go, like for Daredevil, it's really Kingpin and Bullseye. Sometimes Punisher, and then um, they did a good job with I'm blanking on the guy's name. The psycho killer from season 1, who I think they're gonna adapt in season 2.
Muse,
Muse. Yeah, I knew it started with an M. I almost said Mobius, and then I'm like, that's not the DC chair. Muse.
Morbius,
Oh, it's Morbin
even.
time.
I mean, he is a Spider-Man villain, so
Oh god.
yeah. Yeah. Any more thoughts before we wrap up the Daredevil portion of this episode?
No, I mean, closing thoughts. I think, if you're a fan of Daredevil as a character or the show, like this is a major step in the right direction, in my opinion. I mean, it's darker, it's more confident, more physical, and more kind of locked in to what makes Matt Murdock work as a character. Um, the rivalry you see throughout is some would say heated. It still has juice. It's the action tends to hit harder, and the moral questions feel more meaningful this go around. You've still got franchise baggage and finale setup, but I think as a Daredevil season, like this feels much closer to the version fans wanted from the beginning.
Okay, fair enough. For me, I gave this season as a whole 3.5 out of 5.
I think that's a fair rating. I typically try and stay away from rating TV seasons as a whole. So I don't have a number for it. But it's probably in the upper half of MCU television.
Not a high bar. Um, all right. Well, then let's move on over to The Boys finale season 5. Um, I am a big fan of The Boys. I've seen a lot of discourse. People are bitching and moaning about this final season. What were you disappointed with how this season played out? Not necessarily the finale episode, but just the season as a whole.
Um, yes and no. Uh, I think a lot of what you'll see online or across the board is a little hypercritical. Um, like a friend of mine like called me probably like every day for about a week after the finale aired, and he was just like venting to me and making fun of the finale. Um, I don't think it was that bad. There were things that I enjoyed, which you'll hear about, and there were things I didn't enjoy, which you'll hear about. Um, but I think it's a to be that successful of a show to kind of go out and end on its own terms. Like, I mean, they they may have had a plan for what they wanted to do from the get go, it may have changed as it went along, but I mean, I will have to give kudos for them to knowing when to end it, even if there were things I would fix.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, to me, this show is one of my favorites over the last decade, I'd say. I think that this season is a mixed bag, like you said. I think we'll get more into it. It seems to me there are certain things that happen in this season that almost seemed like it was obligatory. Like they kind of threw things in there because they're like, oh shit, like it needs to be in there. And they didn't really have a full idea for it. It's just like, well, we're wrapping things up. We kind of have to have it in there.
Yeah.
Mainly the Gen V gang. But overall, I can't say I was disappointed because I kind of knew in the end Homelander would have to die, and
Whoa,
I
whoa,
thought
whoa!
that
Spoiler alert. Sorry.
yeah, I mean, if you're watching a review for a season of a show and you like, you got to know what's gonna happen. But yeah, that I mean, that happening, I think that that ending scene of everything kind of getting tied up was like well done for everybody's story, I'd say. Um, But my big thing for what I've noticed with, TV shows now compared to, like, when I was younger is that it seems as though every show, like, maybe it's something with the studio or whatever that they signed for, every show seems like they're tied to this 8-episode, 1-hour thing, and I think that it's okay for if you have a story to if it needs more than 8 episodes, then let it be more than 8 episodes. If it doesn't need to be an hour long every episode, make it so. That's how shows used to be, and I feel like that made it, like, a lot more cohesive, whereas I we never reviewed like Peacemaker season 2, but that was my big issue. I felt like that episode, I mean that season could have done with like maybe one more episode. Like I feel like it kind of ended abruptly,
Hmm.
and James Gunn runs the whole damn studio. So who would be telling him to only have 8 episodes in 1 hour? It's like really weird. It just seems like shows kind of want to have that this thing now. Every show has 8 episodes and it's an hour long every episode. So I think that this season kind of had a lot going on in it because it needed to tie up so many different threads and could have done with maybe a couple more episodes. I know that some people were bitching about like, oh, the filler episode where you get into, Black Noir and Soldier Boy and Sister Sage and Firecracker. I think all those episodes just add more to when the finale kind of, you know, comes around. It
Yeah,
just adds more
I
to it.
actually liked that episode. Like, I
Yeah,
don't
me
see
too.
why people hated on it.
Other than the dog thing, I didn't really care for, like, the dog's dream with Homelander and everything,
Well,
but the boys has to be the boys.
Homelander chasing them around with the cape.
Exactly, so, to each their own, but, yeah, there were certain episodes. I feel like they kinda didn't know what to do with, some people, like I said, but, yeah, we'll get into it now. I think for me, the stuff that I liked, I kinda had more things that I disliked than I liked, but they're not terribly, imbalanced. Um, for me, the things that I did like, as I already mentioned, I think that the scene between Butcher and Homelander in the White House and that Homelander dying was really well done. People were bitching about, like, it coulda gone on longer, why, like, the power scaling. You can always like nitpick things like that. You're never going to please anyone in a finale, I feel like. And I think they did well enough. It was obviously going to end up being that Homelander dies. And I thought, like, some people online like completely missed the point of his character and were saying, oh, why, when he lost his powers, why is he like begging and I'm like, have you not been watching the whole show, So I thought that that was well done. I want to shout out Anthony Starr. I don't know how he hasn't won something for this show yet. To my knowledge, he's won no Emmys for it. I don't even know if the show as a whole has won an Emmy, but I think that he's absolutely fantastic. And everybody that's saying that he, as a villain, as Homelander, is up there with the Joker and Thanos and Darth Vader, I'm 100% with them. Um, I think that he brings his A game even in like the worst episodes, the most poorly written seasons. He's always like top notch. So I think that he was great. Carl Urban was great this season. Everybody else was kind of okay. Um, What else did I like? And as I said, like just everybody's endings were cute enough, like it made sense. I think that Huey calling his newborn baby with his new girlfriend, calling the baby Robin, is kind of crazy. But you know, whatever, if Starlight's fine with it. And I like that Starlight has kind of just turned into an actual like hero, almost like Superman, flying off and actually helping. Um, there were some people that I would like to have seen more, but I'll get into that in the stuff that I didn't like. But yeah, those are really the only things that I liked. I mean, it had the same humor, it had the same disgust, quote unquote, as the other seasons. I felt like it wasn't any better, any worse. So yeah. Oh, and Soldier Boy was a like pretty funny in most of his stuff. I really liked him for the small amount he was in the show. So yeah,
Yeah.
what about you? What did you like?
Yeah, I mean, I think, overarching theme with this final season, like it does still feel like The Boys, and even in its final season, like the show keeps the blood, chaos, satire, the pitch black humor that really made it stand out in the first place. It with this last season, it doesn't suddenly soften itself or try to become a cleaner, safer version of the show. And for better or worse, it does go out still feeling like the same nasty, cynical, violent world that we all signed up for in the start of season one. Um, and yeah, Homelander really remains the show's strongest weapon. I mean, Anthony Starr, he really continued to make Homelander terrifying because he is not just powerful, he's needy, pathetic, insecure, and just completely dangerous. But he has always been the perfect villain for this show because he represents celebrity, corporate power, fascism, insecurity, mommy issues, all in one unstable package. And I mean, even when the story around him gets messy, Homelander does a good job keeping the tension alive. And I know one thing that has become a growing topic over the years, for better or for worse, is the political satire of the show. It still has bite in this last season. I mean, it continues using superheroes as a way to talk about power, propaganda, media manipulation, authoritarianism, and how easy people can be radicalized. It is not subtle, but if you've watched this show, it's never really been subtle. And when the satire works, like it feels angry, current, and very much in line with what the world has always been trying to say. And I do think the finale gave the series a real sense of closure because whether you think, every choice in the finale lands or not, this did feel like an actual ending. It doesn't just fade out or punt everything to a spinoff. There was a little bit of that, but not, every little thing. But, all the major characters get resolution, major conflicts are addressed, and the season understands, hey, we're closing the book on this version of the story. And the violence and spectacle still deliver, the action, gore, shock value moments are still a really big part of the appeal. And when the show goes big throughout the season, like it still knows how to be disgusting, funny, outrageous all at the same time. And that mix of superhero spectacle and body horror insanity really remains one of what I think is the franchise's biggest strengths all across, The Boys, Gen V. I hope we'll see it in Vault Rising. Um, and lastly, I think they did a really good job of making sure that the emotional core still mattered because, underneath all the blood and satire, the season really comes back to all the relationships between, Butcher and Huey, Huey and Annie, Ryan and Homelander, Frenchie and Kimiko, MM and his family. Like, I think the best moments are not always, the grossest or the loudest ones. They're really the ones where the characters actually have to face the damage of what the world around them has done to them. And I think they did a really good job closing that out.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean the political stuff I never touched on in my point. I think that yeah, people didn't like that it's gotten so heavy-handed. It's still kind of heavy-handed in this season, but that just depends on I guess how you view what they're making fun of, I suppose. It's never bothered me even though they've gotten very heavy-handed with it and very, you know, straight to the point, like it's very clear what they're doing.
Mhm.
Um For the things I disliked, I think why I'm so low on the season as a whole is not only because I'm such a fan of the show as a whole, um, I'm judging it literally based on a finale, like its ability to wrap everything up with a nice tidy bow, and it tries to rush and do that in the actual last episode and just say, oh well, this person went off here and this person, but like I felt like all the episodes prior, they kind of didn't do all that great of a job to put everything into place where it should have been. My biggest gripe is the Gen V stuff. I think that the way that Gen V season 2 ended with Marie and her the whole, Godolkin thing and the blood being such, like her power being, what was it, Project Odessa, the same thing as Homelander. That
Hmm.
literally played no part in the season.
Yeah.
And I think that that's ridiculous. It's almost as if like I said earlier, it was the season was written and then they just forgot about it and they're like, "Oh, we'll just like kind of have Marie kind of be in there and have her little two things with Starlight and then that'll satisfy the fans and just have them drive off somewhere." Why the hell would Butcher and the boys not have from their like plan A is, all about Marie? Like why the virus is one thing, I'm fine with that, but she should I think that maybe not all of the members of Gen V, like even if they just wanted to have like just, Marie and Emma, Marie, Emma, Jordan, it didn't have to be all of them. Cause I know that there's too many characters to balance, but Marie for sure should have been there from episode one and been with the boys the whole way through. I also think that in the end, they missed a big chance on more people turning on Homelander to make his death even more, I guess, sweet to the audience. I think that they really tried to emphasize the thing between him and Butcher, which they did well with. I'm fine with Butcher getting the final blow, but I think that them, spoiler alert, them having Homelander kill off Firecracker when she kind of seemed like in the episode we were talking about where you get her background with the church, they're building on like this arc that kind of makes her question her faith, and then like her leader in Homelander that I feel like gets abruptly stopped because he kills her, where they could have had an opportunity for her to be there when he's getting beat down and she turns on him, and not saying that it's a full 360 and now she's a good guy or anything because she's done terrible stuff, but just everybody kind of having their chance to turn on Homelander for all, like he's basically bullied everybody for 5 seasons. I think that they missed out on having a lot more people there. Starlight being there in the White House, getting her licks in, Huey being there when he's depowered. I think a lot more people should have been involved in beating him down, and then Butcher gets the killing blow. Um, I think the stuff with Frenchie and Kamiko was well done, but again felt very rushed. And I think the whole plan of them just putting the what was it like the radiation within Kamiko, like
Hmm.
to whatever it was that the Russians did with Soldier Boy, that was way too easy and like too quick of a fix because the whole season is basically, oh, we can't let Homelander get his hands on the V1. He gets it and it's like, oh shit. The next episode they're like, well, we've already just figured out a way to just combat that. That's no problem. Boom bam, thank you. And then the first time they actually try it, it works. They go to the White House and just kill him. So those are like my main, big gripes with the show that really drew back for me, where I was just left like wanting a lot more, which is why I said I would have been completely fine if they made this season 10, 12 episodes even and just made the episodes even shorter. I would have been completely fine with that for them to be more cohesive in the story. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think this season did feel a little bloated because they do have a lot to wrap up, and you can really feel the weight of it as you watch. But yeah, some subplots kind of felt like they were killing time instead of tightening the noose to wrap things up. And for a final run, I mean, there are moments where you would want more urgency and less narrative wandering. Um, the satire, like, can, depending on how you feel, can be too blunt. I mean, as I said, like, The Boys has always been obvious, but this season sometimes crossed into, from sharp satire to like, okay, we get it. And when the commentary landed for me, like it landed pretty hard, but there were points where it didn't, and it felt like the show was underlining its point, 3 times instead of trusting the audience to, like, fully take it in and grasp it. Um, and I mean, some character arcs throughout the show, or this season rather, did kind of feel repetitive, even going back to prior seasons. Like a few characters really end up circling familiar emotional territory. Like Butcher is, once again wrestling with revenge and self-destruction. Like, I gotta kill Homelander. Then what? Huey is, once again trying to hold on to his humanity. Homelander is once again spiraling because he cannot handle rejection or weakness, so he tries to become, the second coming of Jesus. And it all makes sense for the characters, but by season 5 of this show, like, some of it really felt like familiar ground, and not every choice that they made in the finale fully landed with me. Like, I know I said the ending, gave closure, but not every resolution that they went with felt equally satisfying. I mean, there were some choices that felt cathartic, while others, were a little predictable or too neat for a show that really built its reputation on being jagged and unpredictable. And for a series this chaotic, like, I would think some people, maybe this is where most of the criticism came in. Some people may have wanted, a nastier, stranger, or more emotionally devastating finish, and, maybe it just didn't land with some people. I do think as the season went on, like, the shock factor had some diminishing return, because this show has spent, 5 seasons and a couple spinoffs trying to outdo itself with gore, sex, violence, outrageous superhero behavior, and, I mean, at a certain point, it becomes harder to be shocked. Some of the big swings still worked, but others felt like the show really chasing the reaction it used to get naturally. Like, if you look at this side by side comparative to season 1, like, oh, Homelander taking down a whole plane. Like, you see that touched on at the very beginning of this season, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's AI generated. Nothing else on it." And it's just like, "What? Like, really?" Like, that was a really impactful moment in season 1 that really kinda drove everything to the point, and it just didn't go anywhere. I don't think that this season reached the show's peak, nor did, I really expect it to, but I woulda liked a little bit more, and it's still recognizably, a season of The Boys. There's a lot that works, but comparing this season to the show at its sharpest, I do think this final season has a slight step down in terms of freshness and newness, and, like, it's got its strong moments, but it also carries the wear and tear of a show that's been making the same argument for a long time. So, I I I wasn't mad at what we got. I wasn't sad. I was a little bummed that we didn't get more. Like, I do think, 10 episodes would have been perfectly feasible. Um, and there were some things that just kind of like Gen V, like, there were things that were just included for the sake of being included, but they didn't really do anything with. Um, and yeah, some things were rushed. I think having a little extra, bandwidth to breathe and kind of soak things in would have done it a lot of favors.
I'm gonna be upset that obviously the show is done. As I said, like, I really enjoyed the show as a whole. I enjoyed season 5 a little bit better than 4 because I think that 4 is broadly forgettable. I think that a lot of I'm not sure if they just wanted to have a nice, oh, 5 seasons, they didn't wanna stop it at 4. I felt like 4, the stuff that happens in there, they could have, if they wanted to split it into like 4 and 5, but I feel like they could have just done 4 seasons of this. I think 4 was a lot of them spinning the plates, and then it's like, "Oh, how are we gonna kill Homeland?" It was just like a lot of that, just wasting time until the finale because they knew that the 4th season was not gonna be when Homelander dies. So, I will give it credit for that, that it is not the worst season of The Boys, but like you mentioned, it's certainly not anywhere near the peak of what The Boys was when it first came out.
And I mean, honestly, depending on how you feel, like, I'm higher on 5 than 4 as well. Um, but depending on how some people feel about this season, like the critics online, you would say that, each progressive season from 1 to 5, like, the show got progressively worse because I think season 1, especially, is the show at its peak. Season 2 is a slight drop down from that. Season 3 is a slight drop down from that, but they're all kinda in the same ballpark, like, you can't really nitpick too much, but the drop
Mhm.
down from 3 to 4 was so great, and, season 5 brings it back up a little bit, but, it's not close to seasons 1 through 3.
I think why so many people are so critical of this season, or even I've been seeing people specifically critical of the last episode. Um, it's just like how in all our previous podcast episodes where I'm saying everything's going great, everything's fine, and then the ending is just like what literally just like ruined the movie for me. So I think that that's why people like it really is. I feel like for most audiences, myself included, it is how you leave them. Like the movie can be like good, and then like that ending can literally just like bump it up so much more. So the ending, like how you stick a landing in any, show, movie, whatever, is going to be, that's like what people are going to remember. They're not going
Mhm,
to even remember, like people are remembering the last episode. They're not remembering that first episode. Even if the first episode was a 10 out of 10 and the last episode's a 2 out of 10, they're not going to be remembering that. Look at what happened with Game of Thrones. People are looking back at it in retrospect saying, people are saying terrible things about it now, even though for the first, 7 seasons, people were loving it. But because, like, J.R.R. Martin didn't finish the book in time and he wasn't going to rush it for the show, they had to, like, Hollywood had to go in there and make their own thing. And then people were disappointed. And now that's what they remember the show as, unfortunately, not the great stuff. So I understand why people are so upset. Um, but, obviously you have to read between the lines because some people obviously are just out there saying ridiculous things. I mean, the rating that it has now is very low. Um, I think the finale itself is rated kind of low, but like I said, like it's just if people are disappointed, that's how they're gonna view your show or your movie. So, what I know you don't give scores. What would you, in a ballpark, give the final season of The Boys? And if you have one, as a whole, all 5 seasons, The Boys as a show, Gen V, all of the whole Boys universe so far, what would you give that, if you have anything?
So I would probably give season 5 somewhere between, like, a 6.5 and a 7.
Okay.
Um, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit. If I had to give The Boys a score and then Gen V a score separately,
Uh-huh.
um, The Boys as a show, I would probably give, like, an 8.75, maybe a 9 on a good day, because seasons, 1, 2, and 3 are that high. Um, Gen V, I would probably give, like, a 7.5
Okay.
ballpark.
Yeah, it's just 2 seasons.
Yeah.
For me, I'm a little bit lower on this final season. I'd give it 2.5 out of 5. I really think they dropped the ball with, as I said, other than literally the finale episode where it seemed like they kinda were forced to have to clean things up. I think that they wasted a lot of time in the season, so that really bummed me out and kinda made me, like, not enjoy, watching every episode, like, it was kinda more repetitive. So yeah, I give that a 2.5 as a whole, including Gen V, like just everything I've seen from The Boys. I'd probably give it 4 out of 5 stars. I think that it's a great universe and a very interesting take on superhero genres and kind of, the most realistic, I'd say, if superheroes really walked among us. I think that the satire is great. They're being as realistic as they can because I think that superheroes would basically be de facto celebrities, like how we have celebrities in our real world. And I think that obviously it's pushed over the top in some regards, but it's just such an inventive way of looking at things that I haven't seen like other superhero properties do. Um, so yeah, overall, I've really enjoyed The Boys. I'm sorry that it's done, but things have to end sometime. I'm hoping now with this Vought Rising or whatever the hell it's called, they're not going to start turning into the MCU and not knowing when to just stop making boys content.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, when your thing is done, you don't need prequels upon prequels and a Soldier Boy spinoff and a Black Noir this, and sometimes it's okay to just be done and work on, like, come up with something else. So we'll see. I'm still excited for it because I like the character of Soldier Boy. I think that he's pretty funny, and Jensen Ackles plays him really well. So let's see. I mean, what they got cooking up, but hopefully they know when enough is enough.
So comparing controversial finale to controversial finale, which finale would you prefer? The Boys or Stranger Things?
Hmm. Just the finale episode or the whole season?
Uh, Give me an answer for both. I was thinking get mainly just finale because of the blowback that both have received.
I think I would give the edge to the boys for for both, I think. Definitely for the finale episode because I think Stranger Things as a whole, my biggest issue with it is that it never had the balls to ever.
To do anything?
Yeah, exactly. It like my whole thing, like a slight tangent rant, like I know we're not reviewing Stranger Things or anything, but I like the show in concept. I think the child actors are good, and then you watch them grow up, and they're still good actors, and everything within the world is fine. But my issue is that they are children, and it's like an otherworldly, like monsters and everything like that is coming after them, and like Russian spies and everything. And why I think my favorite season is 4 is because that's when Vecna's introduced, and Vecna is on top of business. Like, as he's killing kids. And sometimes that's what a villain needs to do is like, I can't have it be that, for 3 seasons, all the things that are coming out of the Upside Down are easily worked on by 11-year-olds. Like, that's not like, okay, so then why there's no threat in any of these shows. So season 4 to me was the best because it seemed as though something was going to happen. Ultimately, they pull back and then they do the whole bullshit with Max. But I digress. I think that that last season of Stranger Things had a lot more inconsistencies and foolishness going on than I think The Boys did. I think The Boys' problem, as I said, is that they kind of didn't incorporate the things that they set up enough. I don't think that Stranger Things had that issue. I think that they kind of just started making things up now and retconning because it's like, what the hell is Eleven's power? How the hell can she just go into that weird dark place that she's like walking around in that water thing and then she like gives Max life? If like
Yeah,
that's
it's
what I'm
like
saying.
what?
Like you have to work on like you have to think ahead because it's like if she can do that, why the fuck is there a problem going forward if she can just like resurrect people?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think that they just did things just because, like you said, they just didn't have the guts to do anything. So I think, yeah, I maybe have to give it a little bit more thought. But as you ask me right now, I'd say that I was way more disappointed with the finale episode and the whole season of Stranger Things than I was with The Boys. However, I do like how Stranger Things, the tie up thing at the end, was very heartfelt with them playing D&D
Yeah.
and then Holly and her friends coming down and taking their place was very, very well done. But that's about it.
So the reason I ask that is like a couple weeks before the finale of The Boys aired, Anthony Starr was like voice. I don't remember the context of the interview or how it got brought up, but people were making comparisons between The Boys and Stranger Things. And Anthony Starr, Homelander, said, "Hey, the finale in Stranger Things didn't get anywhere. Like they didn't do anything with it. Like the Stranger Things fan base was delusional enough to think there was a secret episode. Like The Boys was never doing all that." But I think that is a big thing for me when it comes to finales or endings between not only television but film or any book, gaming, any ending whatsoever, is as long as they took risks and like actually there were stakes to be had throughout or in the ending or anything, like as long as they got somewhere and there was some sort of scare that something was going to happen, whether that happens or not, like that's something I look for. And if anybody follows me on Instagram, I saw, not gonna get into a whole tangent with this one, but The Mandalorian and Grogu, like I put out a whole tangent on that because I've been a Star Wars fan all my life, and I've since kind of mellowed out my thoughts a little bit, but there were no stakes in that movie. Like it's literally oh, baby Yoda's going to get the milk. Grogu's jangling the keys in front of the camera. Like that's
Yeah,
it's
it's meant
that
to
kind
sell
of movie.
toys. It's
Yeah,
Disney now,
it's
so yeah, if Disney buys your favorite franchise, that's like what it'll end up being. It's gonna be that's how Doomsday is gonna be. Bring back everybody. I actually heard a podcast that you bring it up like with Disney and like Star Wars and everything, and somebody described the Doomsday stuff. It's kind of like, and I think they described it really well. It's like when a franchise is like doing its like legacy reboot, but like it's weird for Marvel because they're still continuing. It's not like it's like how Jurassic Park went from Jurassic Park and then they did the Jurassic World reboot,
mhm.
and then eventually, all the old cast, Jeff Goldblum and everybody came back for Dominion. That's basically what Doomsday's doing, but at the same time they're still continuing on. It's not like they've rebooted yet. So I feel like that's kind of how Disney is in a way.
It
So
doesn't
I feel
shock
like
me.
that's how it's
They
yeah,
did the
that's
same
kind of
thing
how it
with Star
is.
Wars. Like
Yeah, exactly.
The Force Awakens was like an actually good movie, albeit, very feeling very similar to A New Hope. I'm actually a Last Jedi like apologist. Like I actually don't completely hate that movie. Like I think it does some good things right, but the finale is absolutely dreadful. So I'm hoping, that even though I know Marvel, like there's rumors about them splitting Secret Wars into two movies. I don't know why, but it's just,
Because both of them will make $1 billion. That's $2 billion right there. And like that's
so
all they're doing.
stupid.
This Moana remake, like live action crap that they got going on,
Yeah,
is
it's like
gonna make
why?
$2 billion. Meanwhile, Obsession, a far superior movie in every way, I'm sure, is not. I mean, it's making 100 times its budget, but that should be making $1 billion in my opinion.
It's beating out Star Wars. Like that's all you need to know.
I mean, it probably deserves that too. From what I've heard from The Mandalorian Grogu, is that
I
it's
I can attest to that.
like
It
a
does
solid
deserve that.
fine movie, like it was like made for a Disney Plus movie. So yeah, I mean that's kind of how it is with Disney, unfortunately. So
Just wait until Disney buys the rights to The Boys, and they're gonna make, instead of blood and gore, it's gonna be sunshine and rainbows and unicorns. Like
yeah, I
like Black
doubt the
Noir's vision. Like it's gonna be like
yeah,
animals and
the boys would
cartoons.
never allow that, I think. I couldn't imagine if like Disney ever bought DC, how that would work.
Don't
Yeah,
even put
that'd be
that out
very
there.
that would be really weird. I mean, like, funnily, I mean, Disney knows how to make money. Like, people still love the stuff. Like, I'm sure the Mandalorian, Grogu, like, is still gonna make money. Like, they know how to do their thing. Doesn't matter if it's good or not. But, well, yeah,
That's
I
true.
mean, that's just the nature of things now. So, I didn't even know that Anthony Starr said that stuff about Stranger Things. That's interesting that he says that. But yeah, when your point that you made that the stakes and everything, because you brought that up with Mandalorian and Grogu and everything.
Mhm.
That's how you just keep an audience like invested in your show, movie, whatever franchise. Because even though you could argue that in many episodes and seasons, something didn't happen in every episode in the boys created a world in which Anthony Starr's Homelander could do something. Like anytime he walked into a room, it was like the whole cast of characters felt silent. Like he was very unpredictable. 1 minute, like one of my favorite things is I think it's him and Ashley are in like Seven Tower, and I think that they're trying to find like a mole or somebody in the company, and it's like they find like the guy there, and like I can't remember if it's her or Sister Sage, and it's like them basically saying like, don't worry, we're not going to hurt you or anything like that, and then like 2 seconds later the person's like, yeah, I did, and then like Homelander immediately just
Oh
like
yeah, he
blows off
just
the head.
lasers. Yeah, it's
It's
like
so
okay.
yeah, it's so funny like in retrospect, but yeah, that type of stuff where it's like you never know what he's going to do. Obviously the main characters are plot armor, where they write it off that like, oh, he wants to like he doesn't want to kill them so easily like that or whatever. It's plot armor, but every show is going to have that. But at least for the other characters, he'll just like kill whoever. Like he would just can't say the same for anybody in the Upside Down. The Upside Down pulls up into your local second grade. I have no doubt the second graders are bodying the Demogorgon. Why not?
Well, it's like Homelander. It's like, oh, this guy wants to be a part of the Seven. He's blind, dead. It's like
Oh yeah,
doesn't even think about it. It's just like,
Vecna would
whoops.
never.
Yeah. Hey,
So
just wait till Anthony Starr is Reverse Flash. It was me, Barry.
at this point now, I think it's too late to do that one because I don't even know
Yeah.
if they're gonna do like what's going on with this Flash thing in the DCU or
Who
what's going on.
knows?
Yeah, but I've been meaning to say to today the Supergirl tickets came on sale like we were discussing earlier, and I watched the trailer. Like they put out like a little another trailer or whatever, and it shows like Superman like finding her in the ship and whatnot, and like giving her the suit. And just throughout the trailer, I'm gonna say something. I mean, I'm watching it in IMAX. I feel like this movie looks very visually good for some reason, and I don't know, like it looks like it doesn't need to be that visually good looking, but just from the trailer alone, some of the shots that I just saw in the new one that dropped today, I was like, wow, like in some parts it looks better than the Superman movie. So I thought that that was interesting. I was like, I don't think the movie is going to be as great as Superman. Cause I really had a fun time with that one, but the visuals are really stunning to me. I'm like, wow, like that's pretty cool shots they have going on there.
Yeah, I will attest to that.
But yeah, I know we kind of went off onto a little bit of a tangent there talking about, some other things, but anything else you want to add to The Boys, Daredevil, Stranger Things, Mandalorian and Grogu, anything else you want to say?
No, I'm all good. If I say any more on Mandalorian and Grogu, I'm gonna pop a blood vessel and get mad.
Yeah, I watched this podcast of these guys and they review only like bad movies. That's their
Oh
whole
God.
shtick.
Uh-huh.
Um, and they went to see that one. Like one of them is like kind of like me, like he knows of like Star Wars things, but he's not like a big fan and didn't watch the Mandalorian show, whatever. And the other one is like a huge Star Wars fan. So they went together and watched it, and they like tore that shit to. I watched their episode. Like I'm never planning on watching it, but they tore that shit to shreds. It was
As they should.
yeah, but
It's
some people
dreadful.
I've heard conflicting things. Like some people are like, "Oh, it was like cute, this and that," but then some people, like I guess, like the fans of like the genre are like, "What a waste of fucking time," and like all this and so.
I mean, thoughts super duper short didn't need to be a movie. It could have been 3 separate episodes. You could have added them to the
But Matt,
season
how
and
are they gonna get their money in the box office? That's all Disney cares
it's
about.
called Toy Story 5 and your
That's
shitty
not
ass Moana
enough.
remake and
That's not enough. How much
ugh.
more money can we get? That's literally what Disney thinks about. I think that when they go into, if they even have them anymore, creative meetings, they're just like, why are you guys pitching things that are new? We have a bunch of things that's already proven to make money. Let's do that again.
It's so
That's what I think
stupid.
they say.
Do something different, like please.
Like the Grogu stuff is purely to sell toys. In the podcast I was telling you about, they said that when they got there, there was literally a lady and she had on like I guess the Grogu ears, like she bought like the whatever. And the whole movie, she was just like taking selfies and taking pictures every time Grogu's on screen. So it's like you're not even watching the movie; it's all just for show. But Disney doesn't care because she paid her ticket, so whatever. So it's really weird stuff. Like there's certainly some interesting people that go to watch the movies. So I think Disney knows their audience and the whole Disney adult thing and so on and so forth. So but that's a whole we could do a whole episode on that. So that's
Yeah,
a different
if anybody
story.
wants to hear our takes on Disney and corporate mouse greed, let us know and we'll break open the forum.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, if there's nothing else, I guess that'll do it for this episode, which was a little unconventional for our usual ones. TV show talk and then a little bit of just ranting at the end, but you know, it's all in good fun. So yeah, nothing else.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Alrighty. Well, we'll see you in the next episode then.
Thanks everybody.